I want you to do something for me before we get into this. I want you to think about someone, a person in your life who shaped you. Maybe they're still here, maybe they're not. A father, a grandfather, a coach, a neighbor, a teacher. Somebody who, when you think about them, you don't first think about what they owned or what they earned. You think about how they made you feel, what they taught you, the way they moved through the world. Now hold that person in mind for a second. Now ask yourself, what made them unforgettable was not their bank account, it was not their title, it was not their compliments, accomplishments on paper. It was a mark they left inside you. That is legacy. And today, oh today, we're going to talk about what it actually means to build one, not after you're gone, but right now, today. This is Sauna. I E. I'm EXO. Let's get it. Let's get into it. Inheritance versus legacy. This is the most important distinction in this entire episode because I think it reframes everything. An inheritance is what you leave people. A legacy is what you leave in people. Inheritance is money, property, assets, things that transfer from one generation to the next through legal documents and financial accounts. It is absolutely worth building. Financial inheritance means generational wealth matters. But legacy is something different, right? Legacy is the value someone absorbed from watching you, the belief system you model, the way they learn to treat people because of how you treated people, the standard they carry because you carried it first. The decisions they make 20 years from now because of a conversation you had with them last Tuesday. Research consistently shows the most older adults who asked what they want to be remembered for place their legacy of values above their material and financial inheritance. When people are near the end of life and looking back, what they grieve about is not the money they didn't accumulate, it is the moments they didn't show up for, the words they didn't say, the version of themselves they never let others see. Now, here's a piece that hits the hardest for men specifically. Most of us were taught to build inheritance, work hard, stack, provide, leave something behind financially. And that drive is real and it is honorable. But somewhere in that relentless pursuit of the inheritance, we forgot to build the legacy. We are so focused on what we're leaving to people that we never stop to think about what we're leaving in them. And the most devastating version of that is the man who builds a fortune and leaves his children money, but never taught them his values, never showed them how to handle pressure, never let them see him be human. He left them everything and somehow left them nothing. Legacy is the work underneath the work, and it starts right now. So let's get into it. Let's get into it. Before we talk about legacy, I want to acknowledge what we inherited. Because for Black men in America specifically, and the legacy conversation is complicated in a way that is specific to our experience. We did not just inherit individual family patterns, we inherited centuries of disruption, trauma passed down not just through families, but through bloodlines, epigenetically, psychology, and behaviorally. Research published in 2025 confirms what many of us have felt our whole lives, the enduring legacy of historical trauma rooted in slavery, systemic racism, and ongoing oppression continues to shape Black male identity in the present. It shows up as hypervigilance, as a deeply internalized belief that the margin for error is smaller for us. Man, that ain't the truth. and the default setting of survival mode that was coded into us before we had our language for it. And here is where I want to be careful because I'm not saying this to create despair. I'm saying this to create clarity because the same research on intergenerational, say that 3 times fast, intergenerational trauma has a second finding that is equally important. Intergenerational healing is also real. The pattern that was passed down can be interrupted. The cycles that have run for generations can be broken. And the man who breaks the cycle, the first one in his line to do the deep inner work, which is you listening to this right now, to build the financial foundation, to model emotional health, to stay present for his children. That man does not just change his own life, he changes the lives of other people around him. A study on intergenerational trauma and storytelling in Black families found 6 key themes of intergenerational healing, including communication, family togetherness, intentional parenting, faith, and identity pride. What this research makes clear is that the healing is not passive, it is active, it is chosen. And the men who choose it, who interrupt the cycle deliberately, are literally changing the neurological and psychological inheritance of every generation that follows them. So you choosing to break that cycle. I know we all sit in and understand, okay, what is generational wealth? What is generational trauma? And what is generational healing? We all know what the generational trauma is passed through the bloodlines, passed through our inheritance, passed through our family. So it's like we're taking that time now as men. We're like, okay, we're the ones in our family that can break that cycle, that can break that curse, that can start the generational healing, leaving a legacy behind, leaving the general generational wealth behind. And it all starts with us. And that is legacy. Not what you leave, what you change within the family. Breaking the cycle is one of the most powerful acts of legacy available to us. And you do not have to wait until you have it all figured out. I know we like to do that. You start by being slightly more honest than the generation before you, slightly more present, slightly more willing to name the thing instead of passing it down in silence. That is enough to change a lineage. So let let's shift the mindset. Before we get into the practical work, understand legacy is not a destination. It is not something that starts after you've made it. It is not an event that happens at the end of your life. It is the accumulation of who you are in small amounts repeated daily over decades. You You are building your legacy right now in how you speak to the people around you and whether you keep your word and the standard you hold for yourself when nobody's watching, and whether you show up for the people who need you or whether you let the grind consume everything else. The legacy is not the finish line, it's the walk to it. And y'all know I love me some research, right? The Harvard study of adult development, one of the most comprehensive studies in history spanning nearly 90 years. Think about that. Longer than we were alive, found that close relationships more found that close relationships more than money, fame, and achievement are what keep people happy throughout their lives and are what define how people are ultimately remembered. Not the accumulation, the connection, the presence, the daily evidence of love and integrity and care. So let me make this practical. What does living your legacy look like on a Tuesday? It looks like the way you answer the phone when your child calls during a meeting. It looks like whether you tell the truth when a lie would be easier. We've all been there, right? It looks like how you talk about money. Is it a tool or is it the whole point? It looks like what your younger cousins, your little brothers, your sons observe about what a man does when things are hard. None of those moments feel historic when they're happening. They feel ordinary, right? But they are the material your legacy is made of. I want to give you a simple framework. 3 dimensions that make up a complete legacy. Not complicated, but something you can actually use as a lens for how you're living. Here's dimension one: values. What do you actually stand for? Not what you say you stand for, but what do your actions prove you stand for? The people who will carry your legacy forward will not remember your opinions. They will remember what you did and which they remember what you did when it cost you something, what you refused to compromise on, what you got back up from your values demonstrated over time. And the single most powerful legacy asset you own, and they cost nothing to pass on. So, what are your values? What do you value? Ask yourself. You can say, "Oh, I value this," but what do your actions show that you value? Number two, impact. Who are you building this for beyond yourself? Legacy requires an outward orientation. Your purpose connected to something bigger than your own comfort or success. This does not have to mean charity or public service, though it can. Don't get me wrong. It means when you make decisions about your career, your money, your time, are there people whose futures you're factoring in? Maybe a child, a community, a generation. Legacy is purpose with a time horizon that extends beyond your own lifeline. So, are you thinking in decades and centuries, or are you just thinking right now? I know how it is. We get caught up in the right now, the instant gratification that we think about right now when we're building something. But we got to think long term. What is the legacy you're trying to leave behind? What about your kids' kids? And it goes back to that. There's a scripture in the Bible. It's a Bible scripture. There's a scripture in the Bible that says, I'm gonna butcher it, but basically the meaning is a man leaves an inheritance for his children's children. So are you leaving a legacy and inheritance for your children's children? Or are you just trying to leave it for yourself or just your children? So it's like we gotta expand our minds and think past right now or our children's generation. We gotta think about our grandkids and then our grandkids. So it's like we got to expand our mind and think past that and not just think about right now because we'll get so caught up in right now that we'll forget about generations to come. And number three is wealth. But defined correctly, generational wealth is part of legacy. Financial inheritance matters. And we're going to talk about that in the next series, Art 2, building the practical financial foundation. But wealth in the legacy sense is broader than money. It includes intellectual wealth, the knowledge, the wisdom, the perspective you pass on, relational wealth, the network, the community, the way you connect with people, and financial wealth, the actual resources that give the next generation more options than you have. Research on what Black Americans identify as the most meaningful forms of intergenerational transmission includes communication, family identity, faith, and intentional parenting. Not primarily financial transfer. This does not diminish the importance of financial wealth and it contextualizes it. The money means more, lasts longer, builds more when it is accompanied by the values and the identity that give it direction. Values, impact, wealth. That's what it really comes down to. So I guess we got to land this plane right. 3 episodes that we did in this whole first arc. We started finding your purpose, the why underneath all the doing. We stress tested under pressure, what happens when life gets loud and survival mode tries to bury the why. And today we stretched it across time. What it looks like when your purpose becomes legacy that outlives you. Purpose, perseverance, legacy. That is arc one. And here's what I want you to carry into arc two, which starts next week, next Monday on your boy's birthday. Shout out to me though. It goes, and we're gonna go deep on money, wealth, and financial execution. Everything we build financially has to be in service of something. The income, the investments, the assets, they are tools, powerful tools, but tools without direction just accumulate. It's the legacy, the values, the impact, the people you're building for that gives the money meaning. Build the why first, keep it alive under pressure, and stretch it across time until it becomes something that outlasts you. This is not a small life. That is the kind of life that echoes. Arc 2 starts next week. Of course, we got to start next week on my birthday, April 20th, 420. We're going into the money, deep into the money. That's what everybody loves. Oh, I love money. We're talking about money. So let's get into the dynamics of money. This is Sana. E. I'm EXO. I'll see y'all next week, man. Share the show. like this show. If you're watching this on YouTube, man, we're getting better on YouTube. If you ain't on YouTube, check us out, subscribe. We're coming full-fledged, man. This year we're doing a lot of big things with Sauna for you guys. I appreciate y'all. We've been rocking for going on 7 years. So where we started at to where we at now, man, is continuous growth, and I appreciate y'all. With that being said, enjoy your week. We'll be back next week with Sauna IE.